Welcome back to Nutrapreneur, your portal into the world of cutting-edge innovations in the nutraceutical industry. I'm your host, Bethany. Today, we have the privilege of hosting Asa Waldstein, the esteemed principal of the Supplement Advisory Group and founder of Apex Compliance. With his extensive experience in the dietary supplement industry and a passion for promoting compliance best practices, Asa has been instrumental in guiding marketers toward lower risk strategies and ensuring regulatory adherence. Welcome, Asa. It's so great to have you today.
Thank you, Bethany. Wow, that intro made me sound really smart and important, but really, I'm just a passionate regulatory herbalist that kind of followed my passion for natural products into the dietary supplement industry and then into regulatory compliance. So thank you for that kind intro. Really happy to be here today.
Yes, as someone who's also very passionate about regulatory compliance, I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Wonderful.
And you have a rich background in developing and deploying organizational strategies in the dietary supplement industry. So, could you share with us some key insights from your journey that have shaped your approach to compliance and best practice development?
Yeah, it's a continuingly long and wonderful journey. So I have a clinical herbalism background. I started making supplements in 2001. So I've really grown up in the industry. So I've seen the implementation of lots of regulations and laws, such as the Common Allergen Labeling Law, GMPs for supplements. So I've kind of learned regulations from the inside out, from a practical point of view. Also, I've helped oversee 3 FDA GMP inspections, and we received no 483s. That's very lucky and also really, really cool because companies oftentimes get 483s. That's a manufacturing violation. So I've kind of grew up in the industry. And then I've also had the following conversation for years. Let's say, Bethany, that we're in a conference room or a boardroom and we're talking about our dietary supplement product. Well, we have to say something about it, right? We have to talk. We can't just say, this product is a multivitamin, you should buy it. So what's really informed my approach at my consulting company today is having these conference room and boardroom discussions such as, hey, we have to say something about our product. We have to be truthful, not misleading. We have to have substantiation for anything we say, but we have to also get our marketing message across in a way that's effective. So that's after doing that for years and years and years, that's really informed me, what brings me to today running Supplement Advisory Group, the consulting company.
Yeah, and I'd say Supplement Advisory Group really specializes in practical regulatory support. So, how does the group assess risks for dietary supplement and hemp product brands? And what are some of the practical lower risk solutions you often recommend in response to the ever changing FDA and FTC enforcement trends?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Well, I love writing Warning Letter Wednesday. That's a weekly post where I review interesting FDA warning letter trends. That kind of forces me and also allows me the privilege to dig deep into what companies are getting in trouble for from an FDA warning letter point of view. So that allows me to kind of dig deep, look underneath the hood of the nuances of what companies are getting in trouble for. Here is one example. Several years ago, maybe let's go 4 or 5 years ago, if someone wrote a testimonial on your social media wall, such as, hey, Bethany's product worked great for my arthritis, and you liked it, you engaged with it, the authorities kind of were okay, or were hands off with that. But based on enforcement trends that have kind of been reinvigorated lately, if someone writes something on your social media wall that has a disease claim related to your product or your ingredient, and you like it, you say thanks, you smiley face emoji it, that's considered endorsing the testimonial. Now, that's just one example of how enforcement trends change. So as we look at enforcement trends, we always want to kind of stay ahead of the curve. What are other companies getting in trouble for as a way to help inform our compliant marketing and labeling?
Yeah, and for anyone in this industry and especially our listeners, I recommend checking out that Warning Letter Wednesday because you can learn so much by just diving into those warning letters and seeing what the FDA is really focusing on and what people are getting in trouble for essentially. So, given the dynamic nature of regulations, how do you stay ahead of compliance challenges and ensure that marketers are equipped with the most up to date and effective strategies for maintaining regulatory adherence?
So, in addition to reading FDA warning letters, it's also all the other things, following litigation trends. What are companies getting sued for? Here's a really weird one. We're all aware of the DSHEA or FDA disclaimer. These products are not intended to treat, cure, diagnose, prevent. Well, there's actually a really upsetting lawsuit trend where some companies are getting sued for not having that DSHEA disclaimer on the same label panel as other structure function claims. So maybe the DSHEA disclaimer would be on the right panel, but there would be sleep support on the principal display on the main label panel. That's a litigation trend that isn't really talked about that much, but it's really upsetting. So when we look at litigation trends, that kind of helps inform how we can support our clients at Supplement Advisory Group. I also look at most of the NAD, the National Advertising Division cases. NAD is a part of the BBB or Better Business Bureau, and this is kind of where competitors can challenge each other. So for your listeners who may not know, think about the 5G wars. My 5G is better than your 5G. Oh yeah, prove it. This is kind of the regulatory courts, for lack of a better description, where substantiation can be brought to the surface. Oh yeah, you said your 5G is better. Prove it in this court. Where's your substantiation? So the supplement industry has a lot of NAD or National Advertising Division cases. This is really helps us understand how at least the National Advertising Division is interpreting substantiation and claims, that type of thing. So we're looking at, of course, litigation trends, NAD, but then also guidance, right? As we're all aware, FTC's been busy bees over the past 11 months or so, putting out the Health Products Compliance Guide, sending about 670 notice of penalty offenses to health products and dietary supplement companies. So kind of congregating FDA warning letters, FTC action, guidance, talks that I have. I do a lot of regulatory discussions, a lot of public speaking. The on and off camera talks that I have help really inform the strategies that we like to bring forth at Supplement Advisory Group. I know that was a long answer, but it's kind of like, that's all the things that go in. Those are all the different lenses of which we look at regulatory compliance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with all of the new guidelines that have just been put out there by FTC. I think Supplement Advisory Group is a great resource for brands out there that might not understand all of the ins and outs of those new guidelines.
Yeah, without a doubt. Thank you for that. And also, in addition to Warning Letter Wednesday, I'm a big fan of Pay It Forward. Let's try to help one another. So on my website, asawaldstein.com, there's links to Warning Letter Wednesday, but there's also links to my YouTube channel where there's a lot of free how-to videos. There's links to past public speaking events, such as this event will be there. So it can be a great free resource for your listeners as well, too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you kind of touched on it a bit, but social media and website marketing has become such a huge thing in the dietary supplement industry. And so, in the context of the web and social media marketing, what are some common compliance pitfalls that marketers often overlook? And how does the Supplement Advisory Group assist in identifying and mitigating these risks to ensure that they're regulatory compliant?
Social media is really exciting, right? Everyone's on social media. It's important to every business, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong. I'd say probably one of the most notable things, other than the liking of the post, which I've already talked about, is with uncompliant hashtags. The quickest way to turn an otherwise compliant post into an uncompliant post is with the use of an uncompliant hashtag, like hashtag arthritis or hashtag being silly here. So that's pretty high level. And as we look at enforcement trends, FDA is paying more and more attention. Now, here's one that your listeners may not be aware of. FDA is looking back many, many years on companies' social media posts. In fact, a warning letter just came out yesterday that cited a social media post, I think from 2017. That's 6 years old. So that's forgotten. Really, the only folks looking at these old posts, in my humble opinion, is probably the authorities. So we always want to be compliant with what we're doing now. But looking back on these old social media posts, when I'm doing a when I'm doing a client intro call or a deep dive into their compliance, I'll always go to social media, like, Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and go back to their very, very oldest post and then work my way back from there because companies may be very compliant now and learned a lot or maybe have turnover, but what about years and years ago? So looking at these old social media posts is also very important. Social sharing is a big one. So let's say that I'm a company. We'll stick with the turmeric and arthritis example. Let's say I'm a company that sells a product with turmeric in it. And if I'm sharing a clinical study, let's say I'm sharing a clinical study related to turmeric and osteoarthritis. If I share that on my own company social media wall, that is considered marketing. Now, that's probably maybe not going to be enforced unless the company writes something in the title like, hey, this is one of the reasons why we put turmeric in our product. Check out the study. That elevates the risk. Or what about the meta description? Let's say that the company didn't really write any commentary, but the meta description said something like, new study on turmeric and osteoarthritis. If the company sold that ingredient, turmeric in this example, just having that meta description as people are viewing this, the social share, that's considered marketing. I could talk about social media nuances all day long, influencer marketing, that type of thing, but I'll stop there because I know we have other things to talk about, or we can go deeper if you like.
Yes, that was something I was going to bring up as well, is with all of the influencers out there, I think it's really important for brands to provide them with educational resources so they understand how they should be advertising the products as well, because some of them are loose cannons and you never know what they might say.
Yeah, certainly. And, companies always need to have a firm influencer contract, right? Code of conduct, some monitoring, such as you can't just bring in, or you shouldn't just bring in an influencer and just let them do whatever they want, or have them sign a code of conduct or contract and then not do anything about it. There has to be some type of monitoring where it's monthly or quarterly, and then some type of repercussion if the influencer isn't disclosing their material connection, hashtag sponsored, whatever form that may be, or if they're using unsubstantiated words, disease claims, that type of thing. There has to be something written into that contract where you're checking on them and saying, hey, influencer, we really want you to do good. You're a brand partner, but you can't just keep making disease claims. I think we'll see, in particular, FTC start to crack down more and more on influencers not disclosing material connection, making unsubstantiated claims. And the Wild West right now, of course, is TikTok, right? I like TikTok. My daughter, who's 22, goes directly to TikTok for anything, right? Like, hey, I heard about this new hair cream trend on TikTok. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, look at it. It's just crazy. So there's not a lot of enforcement happening on TikTok as related to influencers yet, but I do expect that to change in the next 6 to 12 months.
This episode is brought to you by NutraPayments.com. If your business needs credit card processing that fully integrates with most major Nutra software platforms, offers the lowest industry prices, and has built-in features like recurring billing, $0 trials, and chargeback prevention, then visit us at NutraPayments.com for a free online quote.
Something else that's a very large part of the dietary supplement industry is the labeling aspect. So, as someone who's deeply involved in product label oversight, what are some essential elements that dietary supplement and hemp product marketers should prioritize on their labels to not only meet regulatory standards, but also just to enhance that customer trust and understanding?
Yeah. So where there's smoke, there's fire is an adage I like to use when talking about dietary supplement labels. So let's say that I'm looking at a website and their label is out of compliance. It's maybe got claims on there. It doesn't have the FDA, the DSHEA disclaimer if it needs it. The format of the supplement fact panel isn't right. other things like that. It doesn't have the contact information. That will signal to the authorities there's probably something wrong and kind of trigger them to look deeper. So some common mistakes on labels that I'm seeing is with serving size. And I'm sure you know this too, Bethany, with your consulting work, is when we're looking at labels, if the serving size is, for example, take 1 to 2 capsules daily or as suggested, the serving size in the supplement fact panel must be that higher amount. So if it's take 1 to 2 capsules, then the supplement fact panel must be a serving size of 2 capsules. That's called out all the time, or that's becoming more frequent in FDA warning letters. Also, simple formatting. So as we're looking at labels, and I know you know about this too, as we're looking at labels, there's items with a daily value percentage, and then there's items without a daily value percentage. Items with a daily value percentage need to be above the thick line. So there's formatting, there's line thickness, there's a lot of very small things that need to be on there. But they kind of cumulatively add up to, hey, this label is not compliant. Maybe the FDA wants to go look at their manufacturing facility. It can kind of wave a red flag. Mm-hmm. A really, really common mistake that I see is companies not adding their domestic street address or US phone number in the correct position on the label. So that should be underneath the other ingredients if possible. So supplement fact panel, other ingredients, allergen statement, if it needs one, and then that manufactured by or distributed by. We need to make sure that customers can report adverse events, and so they do that through domestic street address or phone number on the label. Those are a couple things, other than companies not adding that symbol to a structure function claim. So we talked about this a little bit when we were discussing litigation trends. DSHEA FDA disclaimer, these statements are not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, prevent disease, that type of thing. It has a symbol like an asterisk or a dagger. That symbol's got to correlate to other structure function claims on the label. In writing Warning Letter Wednesday, I'm seeing this being called out more and more and more lately, especially in the last month or so. So this is certainly an enforcement trend to watch. And by doing this, you can lower your risk of FDA enforcement. You can also help potentially mitigate your lawsuit risk as well. There's just a few things, but I could talk about labels all day long.
I know there really is so much to it. And I think a lot of brands just find a really great designer that, is very creative and can come up with a really nice looking label, but then they might not understand all of the regulatory aspects. So they're not doing the correct font sizes. They're not creating the supplement facts panel correctly, as you mentioned, with the daily values at the top and the different lines and all of the things. There's just a lot to it. There really is.
Yeah, there sure is. And one other item that I wanted to point out is common mistakes such as made in the USA, all natural, and the no artificial flavors and no artificial colors. These are all very, very common lawsuit trends. So those are, I do a lot of label review at Supplement Advisory Group, and these are common things that I'll see all the time. Hey, made in the USA. Well, are the components from not the USA? For example, if it's a vitamin C product, ascorbic acid doesn't come from the USA. Made in the USA, probably something that's going to attract attention, just like all natural. And again, or no artificial flavors, colors, that type of thing as well.
Yeah, I think we'll start to see an uptick in that because I've noticed that as well with ingredients that, aren't even grown in the US. It'll say made in the USA, but it's really, globally sourced ingredients.
Yeah, and that's a great one. As we know, made in the USA with globally sourced ingredients, if that's accurate, that's one potential way to mitigate that risk while communicating that your products are from the USA and they also have ingredients from elsewhere.
Exactly. Well, I always think it's helpful to kind of share some success stories. So could you share with us any noteworthy success stories or challenges that you've encountered while helping some of these dietary supplement marketers implement compliance best practices and really just showcase your impact on the guidance of their operations?
I love success stories and I love highlighting them. So I've got several recommendations on my LinkedIn profile, Asa Waldstein LinkedIn. Quick plug for LinkedIn. I'm really active on LinkedIn, so hopefully we can all connect there. And then also I've got a lot of testimonials at my website, my personal website, asawaldstein.com. So I love constructive feedback on ways that I can do better, but also positive feedback's great. So here's a success story that I thought about this morning. There was a large company that I contacted, I don't know, a year or so ago. Like, hey, I came across your website. There were some compliance concerns. I gave them a proposal for helping to educate their company, reducing their online marketing risk. They decided to not go forward with the proposal. That's fine. No hard feelings. They contacted me about 8 months later and said, hey, remember those depression claims that you were talking about with our, whatever ingredient it was? We just received a plaintiff attorney demand letter regarding these. For those in your audience that may not know, demand letter, for lack of a more detailed description, is kind of a pre-class action lawsuit. It's not public. Plaintiff attorneys send out these letters. It happens all the time saying, hey, you're doing something wrong. Settle with me for X number of thousands of dollars, and we won't cause more trouble, and you won't have to pay to defend it. So demand letters are so common, unfortunately. So this company received a demand letter related, I think, to their depression claims that they're making about one of their ingredients in their supplement products. And they had to settle. It was like 20 or 25 grand. And then they contacted me and said, hey, we just had to settle this lawsuit or this demand letter about something you talked about. Can we refresh that proposal? Can we hire you to come in and assess our full marketing risk? So what we did is we came in, we looked at the website, we identified essentially every risky word, phrase on their website, provided a detailed report on this, and then did a company training. Here's a line-by-line playbook of everything that's on your website that might lead to more and more lawsuits, warning letters, demand letters, whatever it may be. Here's a lower risk way to potentially talk about that if you have substantiation. And let's get everybody on board to be trained in compliance. They became a really active client. And if I'm doing my job, companies call me less and less. So I just recently checked in with them. They're like, hey, we're good. We've just got a quick question about this, but you did such a great job. I felt that they were saying, you did such a great job training us, mitigating risks, that essentially you've worked yourself out of a job. That's a success story, right? Help companies build a culture of compliance. Now, we haven't mentioned my other company, which is Apex Compliance. So apexcomplianceprogram.com, that is a SaaS compliance software company. Because running a consulting company is not enough. Let's build a compliance software company as well, too. So this launched about 4 months ago, Bethany, and has been a really, really big success. It essentially can find any risky word, phrase on websites, videos, or content before publishing. So I've collected so many testimonials over the past 4 months from large and small companies that are using Apex to say, hey, we didn't know that there was all these risky blogs on our website. Thanks for helping us identify them, helping us come up with a risk rating and potential lower risk way to talk about them. So we've kind of helped avoid so many warning letters and lawsuits with Apex Compliance. So I find that to be a big success as well.
Yeah, and that's really fascinating to me as well, because it's a very efficient approach to helping brands review their websites and things like that, and blogs. And you're able to provide them that report that just outlines everything for them and really makes it simple for them to see what's high risk and how to correct that, which I really like.
Yeah, thank you. And I know that on prep for this call, we briefly ran through Apex Compliance, and you provided some really great feedback. In the age of AI, AI is either terrifying or super amazing. I love AI to help bolster what we're already doing. So we have some new AI enhancements with at Apex Compliance. It will make the already great algorithm even better. So I'm really excited for that launch here coming up soon.
Yes. And your advocacy for a community approach to compliance best practice development is really commendable. How do you foster collaboration and knowledge sharing within the industry to promote a culture of regulatory adherence and risk mitigation among all of the marketers that you work with?
Yeah, I love that. So, as I mentioned, really active on LinkedIn. I do a lot of no charge events, podcasts like this, public speaking. I'm a board member at Naturally Boulder here in Boulder County, where I live, and always try to kind of share knowledge, impart knowledge, and build the culture of compliance. So it's confusing, right? I mean, Bethany, you know the stuff, I know the stuff. We've been doing this for years, but it can be confusing for someone coming from another industry like tech or apparel, or someone new to supplements. The world of compliance and regulatory can be daunting. So I oftentimes, or try always, to take the approach of, it's okay if you're not an expert in compliance, but here's a few tidbits of information about how to kind of build that culture of compliance within a company. As I mentioned, LinkedIn, very active. My wife thinks I'm bananas how many hours a week I spend building posts for LinkedIn that are just simply to support the community of compliance. So as we're talking today, my phone's dinging and I'm getting all these comments and engagement on my Warning Letter Wednesday post that was just posted a little bit ago. And so it's really exciting to see people that many of them I only know through social media and online, kind of get better and better and better at understanding risks. I recently went to Supply Side West in Las Vegas. I spoke on a big stage about microbiome enforcement and trends. It was so fun. But so many people came up to me and said, hey, we love reading Warning Letter Wednesday. We love your post, your public speaking. It's really helped, especially people new to the industry, understand the nuances of regulatory compliance. And for me, that's really heartwarming. So that's kind of my approach to compliance. Is there's no judgment. We're all in a learning process. It's always continuous. And being able to add to this knowledge base is really quite an honor.
Yes, and because I think a lot of people view compliance as kind of a scary thing, or they feel like, you're just always telling them this is wrong, this is wrong. But I think the way your approach is where you're really educating them and you're working alongside them to help them. So it kind of takes that scary aspect out of it. So looking ahead to the future, what do you perceive as the most critical regulatory challenges that the dietary supplement industry might face in the near future? And how do you plan on adapting the strategies of Supplement Advisory Group to address these challenges effectively?
There's never been a more difficult or challenging time to be a dietary supplement manufacturer or marketer, right? The walls are closing in. There's plaintiff attorneys circling like sharks, taking bites out of companies, as I mentioned, demand letters, that type of thing, for what could be perceived as small labeling issues, an all natural claim, something like that. So it's challenging. There's also ADA websites, Americans for Disabilities Act's website. Quick side or quick plug for making sure your website is ADA compliant. ADA compliance is a very common plaintiff attorney lawsuit, happens all the time. So you always want to make sure that your website is ADA compliant. This is all happening when there's a lot of action, as we mentioned, with FTC, with the Health Products Compliance Guide, the Notice of Penalty Offense. Substantiating products has never been more important. So we know that we have to substantiate our products. We have to substantiate any statements we make on label or off label. All marketing is an extension of label. That's a good mantra to keep in mind. But we're seeing this not only substantiation not only required from a FTC point of view, but that's bubbling over into businesses. So, for example, if you want to sell your product at Costco, at Whole Foods, they're asking for a lot of substantiation, even more than what may be required under FTC guidance. So it's becoming really expensive to market dietary supplements in a compliant manner, right? We have to make sure we have substantiation, they're manufactured in a correct way. We have to be cognizant about plaintiff attorney lawsuits. So as we look at this lens, these different lenses of what's kind of the state of the world with dietary supplement marketing and manufacturing and where it's going, you're kind of building back to your last question, Bethany, building this culture of compliance into the company. So we're not saying, hey, we've launched a product, we've made a bunch of claims, now let's figure out how to substantiate them. Let's think about this ahead of time. Hey, we know there's regulations, we know there's new regulations being enacted. Do we really want to have this risky marketing strategy that may come back and bite us? So I didn't necessarily answer your question, but I kind of painted the picture of state of the world of supplements. And then based on understanding the state of the world from a regulatory and risk point of view, then we can adapt our marketing and update our marketing strategy from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And are there any upcoming initiatives or projects at the Supplement Advisory Group or at Apex that you can share with our audience, reflecting the group's commitment to continuously supporting marketers with practical regulatory solutions?
Well, I'm on your wonderful podcast. So that's one thing. I'm also I do lots of public speaking, as I mentioned. You can go to asawaldstein.com/appearances to see all of past and future public speaking events. I'll continue to write Warning Letter Wednesday. That's really supportive. On the Apex side, we'll continue to make more enhancements. As I mentioned, there's new AI-powered features being published soon. And really just kind of continuing to beat the drum of quality and compliance in a way that doesn't turn people off. With Warning Letter Wednesday, and everyone's welcome, whether you're a dietary supplement expert, you've been doing this for 20 years, or you just are interested about it, or you're a new regulatory person. So continuing on with the mission of all the public speaking, all the public initiatives having to do with Warning Letter Wednesday, and then supporting Apex compliance becoming better and better. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And as we conclude this enlightening conversation, we extend our gratitude to Asa Waldstein for sharing his invaluable experiences and insights into compliance best practices and regulatory strategies within the dietary supplement industry. For more information on the Supplement Advisory Group's initiatives and practical support, we encourage you to explore the provided links. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and join us in celebrating the ever-evolving world of nutraceutical innovations on social media. Until our next episode, stay informed, well-nourished, and inspired.